Marlo Thomas. I hope everyone can see this clearly, and in the next couple of minutes, we'll be talking to people from the book. And make sure to put in your questions below the screen so that we can get them answered. And if you'd like to come on camera, I will contact you on the chat window and see if you can get on camera.
Oh, I'd love you all to come on camera and see you. We've all had our say. The contributors to my book that are standing by, they are here really to answer your questions. This book has been an exciting adventure for me. I've learned so much, and I want you to have the opportunity to ask your questions so that we can help everybody start over and reinvent yourselves. I decided to write this book because I travel a great deal for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and I met so many women who told me that they were stuck, that their dream had run out on them. Maybe they wanted to be wives and mothers, and now their kids got driver's license and weren't interested in being with them anymore. Or they got laid off from their job, they lost their spouse, they got a divorce, they tried to get back in the job market, but being over 40, they couldn't really get into the job market. Many of the companies wanted more younger, more tech-savvy people. There were all kinds of reasons for why women weren't able to get back into the job market. So this really is about helping you reinvent yourself and having the courage to not only dream again, but maybe find some information and knowledge, maybe a map that one of these women can help you discover so that you can find what's right for you to change and find a new way to live. So let us start with maybe, let's see, the first question. Where is the first question? Okay, so Lori, are you there? One woman is asking, what if you feel a need, her name is Cheryl, to reinvent yourself, but you have no particular idea or passion immediately present? What do you think we should say to Cheryl about that?
Well,
She wants to reinvent herself, but she doesn't have a passion.
no passion. I think you got to find your passion. So I was an architect before, and I had a light bulb moment, and I was paying attention to every light bulb moment that crossed my path. And there was one that shone so brightly that I had to make it happen. And I just feel like if you walk around anywhere, you pay attention to the signs, and if there's something that you feel strongly about, go grasp it and see what you can do to inspire and build a new dream from whatever what you've passed.
And Lori, what did you do before you came up with this
I
business?
was an architect in New York City for 15 years, so now I'm no longer building structures. I'm now building
And then you decided to
relationships.
and you decided to go into online dating because you thought it'd be a great way of bringing the virtual and the real world of dating together, and you give cards to people with little beginnings of sayings that they can pass on to
Yes,
each
they're
other, right?
ice-breaking pickup
And that's
cards.
sort of the whole. Yeah, and it's really worked for you. You've got your own business now, and you're making. Are you making as good a money as you did when you were an architect?
I actually ended up with a really good job in design, so I'm not quite there, but I'm loving my life so much more. I can't even begin to explain. The quality of my life is so much
That's
better.
great. Great, and you can check out Lori's business and get cheeked on her website. All right, let's have the next question, and maybe Sue Rock could come on and answer the next question. There it is. As a single mom of three girls, 16, 13, and 11, I'm terrified and ecstatic about the idea of reinvention. Today's today's event feels like divine timing. You're a mother to five stepchildren. What's a mother to do? How do I push the envelope of playing everything safe while showing them by example that the sky's the limit? Well, I think that Sue Rock, who's a terrific woman, and she really created a whole new business by helping women in her neighborhood who had been involved in a dangerous life, domestic violence, and she realized that the women who are violated in their own home, when they leave their home, they only take one thing with them, and that's their kids. No clothes for them or their children. And so Sue took her clothing company that she was starting with her husband and made a piece of it be for charitable reasons and giving clothes to women and their kids to help them start a new life. So, what would you say to
Well,
this
it
woman?
speaks right to, and I hope
Oh, we lost the
everybody can
question.
hear me clearly, yes? Great. It
Yes.
speaks right to something that I experienced. As a parent, as a family person, you have to have ways of integrating your dream into, I have to pull this out, into your real life. And I found that the first thing that I had to do as a person who was working a full-time job, but had this wonderful dream of having volunteers make clothes for survivors of domestic violence, is, Marlo, I had to develop the tools, and I had to cull together the tools that made me feel capable. And that just wasn't capable for the dream, but it was capable at all. I mean, we're fortunate. It's not the 1400s, it's not the 1800s, it's 2014. And so now, whether it's books, whether it's counseling, whether it's food or exercise, the first thing that we as women need to do is to pull together the tools that allow us to feel capable. And when I did that, what I found was this: because I felt capable, the ideas that would allow me to integrate my dream into my real life actually came through. I found that in order to get volunteers to work with me and make new items, I didn't have to have a group meeting. I could have people come right to my home, pick up the items, drop them off 3 weeks later, and have an abundance of resources with very little time, you know? But the first start of that was developing the tool base. This was going to be something I'm going to constantly go back to. Maybe journaling, and maybe working out, but it has to be a resource that feeds you, because being capable and knowing that you're capable enough, that will allow the insight to hit you to know how you can integrate um, your dream life into the busy life that you have already. Because I know how she feels. You respect the responsibility that you have as a family person. It's not like you want to disrupt your whole family life. You just want to integrate them both. And what gave me that key were the tools to feeling capable.
What kind of tools are
Well,
they? What did you do? Kind
there's a
of
book
tools?
called The Artist's Way, for example, not to push the artist's way, but in that book, they articulate different techniques that a person begins to unearth their own creativity, ways that they've hidden their creativity. So it may be journaling, it may be poetry writing, it may be, once again, exercise, it may be making sure that you're getting the right nourishing foods. All of these things support a woman's system so that slowly but surely, and especially a lot of the spoken, you have a myriad of guests that come to your show that speak about resources that women can use to learn about their own capability, learn about ways that maybe they've hidden the capability. And as you grow into that feeling, that sensibility, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I don't have to be scared of accounting because I don't do math. I can read. I can go to the library. I can ask for help. You remember these things when you
Oh, you're
remember
in a
that
picture.
you're capable and you grow into that.
And one of the things that was a gift and a talent of yours was
Yes.
sewing. I mean, you and your husband both knew how to do that, and so this was a perfect situation for you. Um, you can help domestic violence survivors one stitch at a time. Go to suerock.wordpress.com for more information. And let's have the next question. And maybe, oh, this is what made you want to write this book, and how have people been responding to the message? What I wanted to write the book because I was meeting so many women around the country who were telling me that they were stuck. You know, I raise a lot of money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and wherever I travel, I was meeting women who said, I don't know how to start over. I want to start over, but I don't know how to do it. And I thought this would be great to come to show women how many, 60 women in my book, that show women how you can start over. And if you read the stories, you'll start to see a map for how you can do it too. And one of the things I learned from all of these women is that you can think big, but you have to work small, step by step by step. If you do one small thing every single day, in 6 months, you'll be so much closer to that dream that you have inside of you. If you have a question for me, you can tweet it to, what does that just mean? To It Ain't Over. Is that right? Okay. Um, and so, why doesn't Carol Oswald, why don't you come up? Where's Carol? The question, Carol, for you is, What advice would you give to someone who wants to reinvent themselves but is feeling overwhelmed by the process? What's the first thing they should do? Now, Carol was a very successful IBM manager, and she was sort of tired of her job, and it was not making her feel good about herself, and she wasn't happy, and she had a lot of knots in her body, and she decided that she wanted to help other people get unknotted, and she became this wonderful massage therapist, and she's loving her new life. I think that's pretty much quickly, right, Carol, your
Yes,
story?
that summarizes it very well.
Yes.
I
And so, what advice would you give to someone who wants to reinvent themselves but feeling overwhelmed by the process? What's the first thing they should do?
I found was my biggest hurdle when I decided to make this change was the whole financial situation. Would there be enough money? And I think really one of the biggest things was my health insurance, because I was working for a big corporation. I had the insurance taken care of. It was top of the line insurance coverage that I knew I probably wouldn't be able to get on my own at the same you know um, small amount of money that I was having to pay out of my paychecks. So I went on a data gathering mission. I took a look at what my husband and I were spending, what our needs were going to be for the next several years. I found myself an insurance agent who stepped me through the process of finding my own health care. And that was 12, 13 years ago. So we didn't have exchanges to go to and some of the things that are available today. And there was also concern about, fortunately, I didn't have any pre-existing conditions that I needed to worry about, but that was a pretty scary hurdle to overcome, was to make that transition, to make sure that the financial piece of things would be taken care of. And once I sat down, the fear came from not having information. And so once I got the
Yes.
information, then I was able to say, I can do this. Here's how I'm going to do it. I could lay out my roadmap. And I got that, probably the biggest hurdle for me. I got that piece out of the way. And then the rest of it was frankly fun to figure out at that point.
And you can find inspiration in Carol's story and others in It Ain't Over and our website. Who else has not been up yet? We've had Sue and Carol, and we had, uh, let's see, who has not been here? Laura, oh, Doreen. Doreen, where are you? Let's ask the next question. For Doreen, Doreen has another fabulous story. She and her husband traveled 47 states and 22,000 miles in a 340 square foot bus. Boy, if you could do that, I don't know that my husband and I could manage that and still be having a good time. But she loves her job, and she makes herself. Oh no, I'm sorry. You went coast to coast and discovered the joy of new experiences. And I love what you said, Doreen. You said collecting experience is more important than collecting stuff. That's such a great thing. And you were, what were you doing before you decided to take this bus trip? You and your
Well,
husband.
both of us actually were practicing shrinks. We were psychiatrists, and he
Right.
came home one day just kind of out of the blue and said he wanted to chuck it all and travel the U.S. for a year in a converted bus. So, of course, my first question to him was, why can't you be like a normal husband in a midlife crisis and have an affair or buy a Corvette? And I told him I would never, ever, not in a million years, live on a bus. And obviously, he's a much better shrink than I am because we did do the trip. And I think that kind of shows that inspiration can come even when you don't think you need it or want it. Well, for
Right.
me, I was very content
And
before the trip.
uh-huh. And then you got hooked
I
on
did
it.
get hooked on it. I got totally hooked. I think that when you're younger and just starting out with a career, college, grad school, whatever, you're constantly being stimulated and challenged and learning new things. And at some point in middle age, and I think this is pretty common, you kind of feel like, okay, well, maybe I've gotten to where I wanted to be in life, and that's where I was. And I was wondering, gosh, is this all it is?
And I didn't realize that really what we have to
Right.
keep doing is just stretching and challenging and reinventing and stimulating ourselves. Otherwise, content isn't necessarily all it's cracked up to be.
The question that's coming from Emily Minter here is, what is your advice for those who are looking to reinvent themselves at young ages of the early 20s? What would you think would be good about that? And why don't we get all the contributors in here, or as many as we can? Uh, Sue and Carol, are you around? There's Lori. And
And
where's Sue Rock? There you go. So we've got three of you, and then we'll mix it up a little bit. But do any of you have any advice for people in their 20s who are looking to reinvent themselves?
I think you have to pay attention to your passions. I think you have
Speak
to pay
up.
attention to your passions at a very early age. And, you know, if you like flowers, if you like nature, and again, just look for inspiration anywhere you are. And you can, if you don't like what you're doing or you want to create a path of your own, I say, go for it. Get a team of supportive people around you, whether it's your friends and family, and ask for lots of advice. Try to get some mentors, no matter what age you're at, and and start building your dreams.
And and you know something that I learned from the women in the book is that they found something that they love to do, and they made that the way that they
Mm.
start reinvented themselves. One woman made jewelry, and she lost her husband, and she had three little kids, and uh, it was unexpected, the loss of her husband. And so she said, "What am I going to do? How do I make money?" And one of her friends said, "All that jewelry you make that you give to us, we love it. Why don't you sell your jewelry? Start making jewelry and selling it." So she took it to stores in the local neighborhood and she started selling her jewelry. And one of the great things today about the web is you don't have to rent space, you don't have to buy a shop. You can actually have a little shop on the web. And so she's making enough money now to provide for her family. But it's something that she loves to do. Making jewelry was something she always did, and now she's found a way to make a living with something that she loves. And what could be better than that? Do we have another question? Here we go. Next question. Jackie, where's our next question? There you go. Susan Nall. When your confidence in yourself is rocked to the core, how do you quickly recover it? Does anybody have an answer for that?
I find that you have to find some sort of inner resource and you can't rush it. You can't rush it. When your confidence in yourself is rocked to the core, I think, all of us will agree, it's not an overnight process. Number one, you're surprised that your confidence could be rocked to the core in the first place. That's always the awareness. But I really feel that, women in particular have an inner strength and often look to that experience over time as, I don't know, a signpost of an awareness of the reality of their life, and maybe ways to grow or ways to change or ways to try new things, especially when you've gotten that confidence blocker. Generally, as a person who's had that happen to them before, generally is something that shakes you, but it doesn't break you. It brings more awareness to your life. Please, ladies, do you think it's the same thing?
I would agree with that. And
I think so.
all I wanted to add is that
Go ahead.
go back to a time in your life when you did feel confident and when you did feel capable, and just keep reinforcing those memories and tell yourself, I did it then, I can do it again.
I think that's a great idea. The you that was, the you that was
Yes,
is
it's
still
still
inside of
there.
you. You still have it. You are your biggest resource, your best, most dependable resource. And also surround yourself with people who believe in you. I know that when I'm feeling blue and I get rocked by something, I call the friends of mine that I know will encourage me and make me feel better about myself and remind me just how much I do have inside of me to have faith. Let's get the next question. I'm glad Carol Oswald is back. Welcome, Carol. Okay, restarting at 28 after a lengthy illness. What's your best advice jumping into the water and starting a new career? Do any of you have some thoughts about that?
I mean, I started a brand new career. As I mentioned, I was an architect before, and now I'm running a dating business. So, I mean, I just think you have to throw all your passion into the boat and go full force ahead and you believe in yourself. Again, surround yourself with as many positive people as you can. Stay away from the haters and just believe in yourself so much. Like I've always been very stubborn through life, which I think is part of why I don't give up. And sometimes that's been a bad thing in life, but now building a business, it's been an attribute. And I'm not going anywhere.
You know, one of my favorite sayings, and I use it in the beginning of my book, was something that the actress um, Ruth Gordon once said. And she said, never fakes the facts or you won't get up in the morning.
So
And
true.
that's how I feel. It's the facts. There are too many statistics and surveys and polls telling you why you can't do something. And really, Nikki, don't listen to it. Just start wherever you want to start and believe in yourself and bring people around you that can help you begin. Because we can't always do it by ourselves. We have lots of resources. So think about the people in your life, whether it's a relative or a friend or an ex-boyfriend or whoever it is that you think might be a good person to walk around the block with now and get a little bit of encouragement from. All right, let's have the next question. Here it comes. Katie Dunn. How does a single woman in her early 60s find any real motivation to reinvent themselves when it feels like they are far past it? Oh, it ain't over, let's over, Katie. We all know that. What does anybody? How about you, Carol? You got something to say about that?
Um, I think one thing that's important when you're getting to your 50s and 60s is to recognize that you're at a stage where you have the opportunity to be totally re-energized and just have the ability to do what you want to do now. Whereas when we were younger, we always felt more of an obligation to follow a certain path or to follow what our friends thought we should do or our parents thought we should do. But once you reach your 50s and 60s, it's your time to grab the golden ring and make the most of it. And one of the things that I've found to be totally inspirational to me is to get involved with organizations that think like you do, that do the things you want to do, that help you become a lifelong learner so that you can constantly be learning new things, because you might be surprised that you'll tap into something that really catches your interest. One of the things that I feel blessed to be able to do is to spend more time volunteering and working with organizations where I can make a difference. And it doesn't have to be about me. It can be about other people now, and that's something that I feel invigorated by.
That's great. Can we see any of the people that are writing in? I'd love to see who you are. Katie, I guess you don't have that capability. Do you have any way in which to say hello to us visually? Anyway, if you don't, whoever's the next questions, if you can, we'd love to see you. What's our next question? Hello? There you go. Can you share your own experience with reinvention in your life? What are the ways you've reinvented yourself? And what steps did you take to empower these changes? I'm not sure who this is meant for, um, but I think possibly Doreen, you want to talk to this a bit?
Sure.
Your experience with
Yeah,
reinvention?
I mean, look, as I said,
You reinvented yourself. You would, because your husband kind of motivated it and said, just try this with me. And you had the courage to say, okay, I'll try it for a while. I'm not going to commit to this kind of life, but I will try it. And so that kind of empowered you that you thought, okay, this isn't forever. I'll just give it I'll give it a shot at changing. And I think that's oh, there's a picture of you and your husband there in front of your bus.
yeah,
That's great.
our
So
home.
it's a great
Yeah.
picture. Yeah. Um, and so, what steps did you take to empower the change, do you think?
Well, I think, I was really afraid of the unknown. I did not want to do this trip. But I think for me, what happened is that in my practice as a shrink, I saw so many people who would put off their dreams until they retired or their kids were out of the house or whatever. And then some tragedy would happen and they couldn't do their dream anymore. And my husband had the same experience, and he finally convinced me by saying, I've done everything right in my life. I've taken all these steps. I don't want to put things off anymore. I want to live my dream, and I want to do it with you. And it still gives me goosebumps. But so
Mm.
I decided, okay, fine. And this was the first time in my life I did something that dramatic for someone else. And the way I viewed it, I was giving up a year of my life and everything comfortable and familiar just because someone I loved needed me to. And I did go into it thinking, wow, I can survive anything for a year. But I ended up getting so much more out of it than that. And being on the bus just taught me new priorities. And I used to love, clothes and fashion and that kind of thing. But when we got home after a year and I unpacked boxes and boxes of all this stuff I hadn't thought about, let alone missed for a year. And I realized I didn't want to continue to support a
Yeah,
lifestyle, but what I'd much rather do is support living a stimulating life. And there are a lot of studies about happiness that
right.
show that what makes us happy is experiences and having memories about the experiences, not the stuff that we collect.
I hope that answered it for you, Kara. Next question. There's Sue again. Hi,
Hey,
Sue.
Sue.
Uh, how can men help with reinvention without coming across like we're trying to fix or solve a problem? That's from Mitch Jackson. That's such a good question, Mitch. My brother always says that. He always feels that when his wife asks him something, he wants to be sure that he isn't trying to tell her how to do it, but just to allow her to express it. I think if I could say a little something about this is that I think when men or women tell their significant other what they're feeling, what they're thinking, wanting to do, they kind of want you to listen. Not so much give advice right away, but just let them speak it out. Because sometimes when we talk it out with somebody we trust and we know won't be judging us, we might hear within our own conversation what the solution is. And it's so great if you can find that for yourself. Do you have any thoughts on that, Sue?
Well, we're a husband and wife team who are doing this, Sue Rock Originals organization. And one thing that helped us is that we each have our roles in the organization. We get along well as friends. So if a person is close to their mate, male or female, that's wonderful, but everyone should be respected for their role, in the process. And then the wires don't get crossed as much, and learning can take place on either side. So I've learned a lot from the role that he takes as kind of director of operations. And then he's learned a lot from my role as being more the front person. And there's an exchange less than the wires getting crossed. So that's been helpful on our end.
Right. That's great. Anybody else have anything to add to that? Please speak up. Don't wait for me to call on you. If you have an idea, just speak right up. If not, we'll go to the next question.